The sky above the alien planet was a swirl of green and violet clouds, glowing faintly under the light of three suns. Ethan, the human medic, stood on the edge of the landing platform, staring at the strange landscape below. Towering crystal. Spires rose from the ground like jagged teeth, and rivers of liquid silver reflected the alien light in a way that made everything shimmer. He felt a mixture of awe and unease. This was not Earth. This was a place where humans were strangers, and every step could be dangerous. The alien ship had landed with a soft hum. Its doors opened slowly, revealing an alien court filled with beings of shimmering skin and angular features. Their eyes were large, filled with curiosity but also suspicion. At the center of the gathering stood the alien queen, her presence, commanding and fierce. Her armor sparkled like polished gemstones, and a crown of flowing energy hovered above her head. She exuded power, pride, and something else: anger. A commotion broke the quiet as a small figure was carried into the chamber. It was the queen's daughter, the young princess, her body trembling and eyes closed. Her normally vibrant green skin had dulled to a pale shade, and deep scratches marked her arms. A skirmish with rival alien factions had left her wounded, and the queen's guards had brought her here in a rush. Ethan stepped forward instinctively, ignoring the stares of the alien guards. His medical kit hung at his side, and he knew there was no time to waste. Humans were not usually allowed close to royalty, but he had one skill that mattered more than fear: the ability to heal. "Step back," the queen commanded, her voice sharp and resonant. "No human touches my daughter." Ethan raised his hands in a gesture of peace. "I don't want to fight," he said calmly. "I only want to help her." The queen's eyes narrowed. Her gaze was piercing, studying him as if trying to see every thought in his mind. She did not like what she saw. Humans were fragile, weak. They should have knelt, begged, and cowered in her presence. Yet this human, Ethan, stood tall, steady, unafraid. The princess whimpered softly, her breathing shallow. Ethan didn't wait for permission. He knelt beside her, carefully checking her wounds. The scratches were deep, but not fatal. His hands moved quickly, cleaning and bandaging, applying a salve that he carried in his kit. The alien flesh was different, but his experience and knowledge of medicine allowed him to adapt. The queen's guards tensed, weapons at the ready. No human had ever touched royalty before, and some of them muttered in fear. But the queen did not command them to stop. Instead, she watched Ethan with suspicion and disbelief. Minutes passed. The princess's breathing steadied. Color returned to her skin. Her eyes fluttered open and she blinked at Ethan. Is it safe?" she asked in a weak, musical voice. Ethan smiled softly. "You'll be fine. Just rest." The queen's lips parted in shock. Her daughter, her precious princess, was healing under the hands of a human. This should not be possible. Humans were weak. Humans were simple. And yet here was proof to the contrary. "Why are you not kneeling?" the queen demanded suddenly, her voice cutting through the air. "Humans should show respect, show submission, kneel before your superiors." Ethan looked up calmly, meeting her gaze. "I respect life," he said quietly. "I don't need to kneel to prove it." A tense silence filled the chamber. The queen's pride was wounded, and the alien court whispered among themselves. Some of the younger aliens tilted their heads, fascinated by the human's courage. Some older ones shook their heads, muttering warnings. The princess moved slightly, her small hand reaching for Ethan. "Please, stay," she whispered. The queen's expression softened for a moment, but only slightly. She was not used to seeing such care and bravery combined in a single being. And yet, she could not deny what she had witnessed. Humans were capable of more than she had imagined. Ethan finished dressing the princess's wounds and stood. "She will recover," he said confidently. "But she needs quiet and rest now." The queen studied him for a long moment. Then, without a word, she gestured for the guards to lower their weapons. The tension in the room eased slightly, though her eyes still held a spark of caution and suspicion. Ethan knew this was only the beginning. The queen's curiosity was growing, but so was her doubt. Humans had a reputation of fragility, of being small and weak in a universe filled with powerful beings. Yet he had just proven otherwise, not with weapons, not with threats, but with skill, patience, and compassion. As the human medic stepped back, the princess gave him a small, grateful smile. "Thank you," she said softly. Ethan nodded. "Rest. Now, you are safe." The queen's gaze lingered on him, a mix of astonishment and something she did not fully understand. She had always believed that humans were unworthy of trust, unworthy of power. And yet here was one human standing in her palace, healing her daughter and refusing to bow. Outside the chamber, the alien sky continued to swirl, the suns casting, shifting colors over the crystal landscape. Unknown dangers still lurked on the planet, and rival factions were not far away. But inside the palace, something new was beginning, something fragile, powerful, and unexpected. A bond, however small, was forming between human and alien. And that bond, Ethan sensed, could change the fate of both their worlds. The queen turned, away, still uncertain, but one thought echoed in her mind. This human is unlike any I have ever seen. The story of trust, courage, and the extraordinary potential of humanity had begun. The alien palace was quiet now, but the air remained thick with tension. The queen's chambers were filled with the soft hum of energy fields and the occasional flicker of holographic lights. Ethan walked slowly beside the recovering princess, his senses alert. Every sound, every movement could be a signal of danger, yet he felt a strange calm. Humans often thrived in moments like this, moments when quick thinking, patience, and care made the difference between life and death. The princess leaned slightly on him as they moved. Her steps were unsteady, but she smiled faintly, a fragile gesture that made Ethan's heart lift. She had been through a harrowing ordeal, and yet she trusted him enough to rely on his guidance. That trust was rare and precious, especially with a human in alien territory. You are not like the others," the princess said softly. Her voice, melodic and cautious, carried a weight beyond her age. Most humans would have run or hidden, or demanded something in return for helping. Ethan shook his head gently. "I do what I can because it is right. That is all." The princess studied him, her large eyes reflecting curiosity and awe. "You are brave," she whispered, "and kind. But they do not understand you. My mother, she will never fully understand." Ethan nodded, understanding the unspoken truth. The queen's pride was immense. Her trust was earned slowly, if at all. And yet, for the first time, a human had come close enough to touch her world and her family to challenge her assumptions. Meanwhile, the queen stood in a high chamber overlooking the palace courtyard. Her eyes were sharp, her posture rigid. She had watched Ethan and her daughter closely, every gesture and word examined for signs of weakness or trickery, but she found none. Instead, she saw skill, compassion, and quiet courage. "This cannot be," she muttered to herself. "Humans, they are supposed to be fragile, weak, inept. And yet—" The queen's voice trailed off as she turned to a nearby aide. "Prepare the council. We will observe this human closely. I want to know everything. How he thinks, how he moves, how he heals. No detail is too small." Her aide bowed, aware of the gravity in her tone. The Queen did not usually admit uncertainty, yet now she could not deny the truth she had witnessed. Humans could be stronger than she had ever imagined, not in muscle or weaponry, but in mind, heart, and courage. Back in the private chambers, Ethan carefully helped the princess sit on a soft, glowing bench. Her wounds were healing, but her energy remained low. He began to prepare a nutrient infusion, a liquid designed to restore strength quickly. "You humans, you think differently," the princess said quietly, her gaze fixed on him. "You do not rush. You do not act without reason. You care." Ethan smiled softly. "Caring is not weakness," he said. "It is the strength to help others, even when it is risky." The princess nodded slowly, absorbing his words. She had seen her mother demand submission, loyalty, and obedience. Humans were expected to bow, to fear, to yield. Yet this human stood tall, guided by principle, not by command. The contrast was striking. Suddenly, a soft alarm echoed through the chamber. Ethan froze. He was trained for danger, and instinctively he scanned the room. The princess tensed as well. "They sense something," Ethan murmured. "We must be cautious." The Queen appeared at the doorway, her presence commanding the room immediately. Her flowing armor shimmered with energy, and her crown of light glowed brighter than before. She studied Ethan carefully, her expression unreadable. "You have healed her," the Queen said, her voice cold but slightly softened. "But do not mistake this for favor. Humans are not welcome here. You are allowed because of necessity. Nothing more." Ethan met her gaze steadily. "I understand. I do not seek favor. I only seek to help." The Queen's eyes narrowed, measuring his honesty. She had expected lies, excuses, or weakness. Instead, she saw clarity and resolve. For a moment, she felt a flicker of something unfamiliar, respect perhaps, or curiosity. "You speak with confidence," the Queen said finally. "Confidence is rare among humans. You should kneel." Ethan shook his head gently. "Kneeling does not prove respect. Actions do. Healing, protecting, saving. Those prove respect." The Queen's lips pressed together. Her pride bristled, yet a part of her recognized the truth in his words. Humans were unlike other beings she had encountered. They did not rely solely on power, status, or intimidation. They relied on something deeper: courage, compassion, and ingenuity. The princess, sensing the tension, spoke quietly. "Mother, he saved me. Perhaps that is proof enough." The Queen's eyes softened slightly, though her voice remained firm. "Perhaps. But humans, they are unpredictable. One must always be wary." Ethan nodded. "I expect no favors, only the chance to help when it is needed." The Queen studied him for a long moment. Then, without another word, she turned and left the chamber. Her aides followed, whispering among themselves. The princess exhaled, relief washing over her features. You did it," she whispered to Ethan. "You did not kneel, and she did not stop you." Ethan smiled faintly. Sometimes courage is not in the act of fighting. Sometimes it is in standing tall when others expect you to bend. The princess watched him, her eyes wide with wonder. "You humans, you are strange, but you are remarkable." Outside, the alien skies shimmered, the suns casting shifting lights across the crystal spires. Unknown dangers still lingered beyond the palace walls, but inside, something new was forming. A fragile bond, unspoken but powerful, was beginning to take root. Humans and aliens, strangers by nature, were beginning to understand each other, not through fear, not through domination, but through trust, care, and courage. Ethan, knew this was only the beginning. The queen's doubt was a doorway, and her curiosity a key. Humans had the chance to prove themselves, not through weapons, but through character. The universe often underestimated humanity, but those who did would soon learn that strength came in many forms. For now the princess rested, and Ethan remained by her side. Outside, the palace hummed with life, a world of mystery and danger waiting just beyond the walls. And in the quiet of the chambers, a human had earned the first spark of trust in an alien heart. The story of courage, compassion, and the extraordinary potential of humanity continued, each moment bringing them closer to a future neither species could yet imagine. The next morning, the palace was alive with the soft hum of energy shields and the quiet movements of alien attendants. Sunlight filtered through the crystalline walls, casting a rainbow of colors across the floor. Ethan walked slowly, careful, not to rush, beside the princess. Her wounds had healed enough for her to walk steadily now, and she clung lightly to his arm for support. "You humans, you do not fear what others fear," the princess said quietly. "Even when my mother's guards watched, you did not flinch." "Why?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Courage is not the absence of fear," he said. "It is the decision to act, even when fear is present." The princess's eyes sparkled with admiration. "I have never met anyone like you." Before Ethan could respond, a sudden ripple of energy passed through the palace corridors. The walls themselves seemed to shimmer, and the floor beneath them hummed faintly. Both he and the princess paused. "The queen," she said softly. "She has gone to the inner chambers. Something has called her." Curiosity stirred in Ethan. He knew the palace held secrets, and the queen's private chambers were said to contain artifacts and relics of great power. But this ripple, it was unusual. Alive, almost, as if the building itself were aware of his presence. The princess led him to a doorway at the far end of the corridor. "Do not follow me too closely," she whispered. "Mother will appear without warning. Her presence is powerful." Ethan nodded. He had faced dangers before, but the power of an alien queen was something else entirely. He had learned patience, observation, and caution. And now he would see something few humans had ever seen. The queen's chamber was larger than any room Ethan had ever entered. Crystalline spires rose from the floor like stalagmites, glowing with inner energy. At the center floated an object, small but brilliant, casting golden light that pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. The air around it shimmered with faint waves, and Ethan felt a strange pull, as if the object recognized his presence. The queen stood at the far side of the room, her armor gleaming. Her eyes widened as she looked at Ethan, and she gasped softly. This can't be." Ethan tilted his head slightly, unsure what she meant. "Can't be what?" he asked, his voice calm. The queen took slow steps forward, her gaze fixed on the floating object. It was a small, glowing orb, covered in shifting patterns of light. Its surface seemed liquid yet solid, constantly rearranging itself. The energy it emitted was strong, and Ethan could feel it in his chest, a warmth and power unlike anything he had ever sensed. "Humans, you were never meant to touch this," the queen said, her voice trembling slightly. "It chooses only the worthy." The orb pulsed more brightly as Ethan moved closer. He reached out, hesitant at first. When his fingers hovered above it, the patterns on its surface shifted, aligning into shapes that seemed familiar. Letters, symbols, even diagrams resembling Earth's atomic structure. The object was alive, intelligent, and somehow resonant with him. The queen's eyes widened further, disbelief and awe mixing in her gaze. "No, it cannot respond to you. Humans are too small, too weak. Yet here you are." Ethan studied the orb carefully. It was not dangerous in a threatening way, but it was alive in a sense he had never encountered. It reacted to thought, curiosity, and calm determination. The way it pulsed in rhythm with his breathing suggested it could sense intent, not just touch. The princess stepped closer, watching him with wide eyes. "It responds to you, not me, not my mother, only you." Ethan nodded slowly. "It seems to trust me, or at least recognize me. I don't fully understand it yet, but it is not hostile." The queen's voice shook as she spoke. "It is the key of worlds, a legend among my people. We believed it would never awaken. Certainly not for a human. Yet, you stand before it, and it reacts to your presence." Ethan took a careful step closer, his hand extended. "Then it wants me to do something?" he asked softly. The queen's eyes narrowed. "I do not know, but it will not lie. It only responds to beings of exceptional mind and heart. You might be the first human to touch it without peril." Quiet moment passed. The orb pulsed gently in Ethan's presence, almost like a heartbeat. He realized that it was not just a tool, but a sentient artifact, capable of understanding, choosing, and perhaps even teaching. "I do not seek power," Ethan said quietly, more to himself than to anyone else. "I only wish to understand and to help." The orb glowed brighter, casting golden patterns onto the walls. Symbols and shapes swirled around the chamber, forming diagrams that suggested energy pathways, galactic maps, and star systems unknown to humans. Ethan studied them carefully. He did not need to understand everything immediately. The artifact seemed patient, waiting for him to comprehend its patterns. The queen stepped forward, her voice firm but tinged with wonder. "If you are the one it has chosen, then humanity may have a role in what is coming. I never thought this day would arrive." The princess watched Ethan, awe and admiration in her gaze. "I knew humans were special," she whispered, "but I never imagined this." Ethan's hand hovered above the orb for a moment longer, then he withdrew slightly. The artifact pulsed once, strongly, almost like a sigh of approval. He realized it was testing him, sensing his intent, and judging his courage. "Careful," the queen said softly, almost to herself. "The power it holds is beyond anything you have imagined, and yet it responds to him." Ethan stepped back and looked at her. "I will not misuse it. I only wish to understand, to learn, and to help those who need it." The queen's gaze softened slightly, though her pride remained. She had spent centuries guarding this artifact, believing only the most powerful aliens could wield it. And yet, here was a human, standing calmly, showing courage, wisdom, and restraint. The chamber fell silent except for the pulsing of the orb. The air felt alive, charged with potential. Outside, the palace seemed to hum in anticipation, as if the planet itself sensed the importance of this moment. Ethan realized that this was only the beginning. The Key of Worlds was not just a powerful object, it was a test, a challenge, and perhaps a gift. It recognized qualities in humanity that the Queen had never acknowledged: courage, compassion, and intelligence combined in a single being. The Queen took a deep breath, her voice steady now. "You may be the first human to wield this, but understand this, Ethan. The galaxy will not wait. Danger comes quickly, and those who seek this power will not hesitate to take it by force." Ethan nodded. "I understand. I am ready to face whatever comes." The orb pulsed once more, glowing brighter than ever, as if acknowledging him. The Queen's expression was unreadable, a mixture of astonishment, caution, and a growing sense of respect. The princess reached for Ethan's hand. "Whatever happens, you are not alone," she whispered. Ethan smiled faintly, glancing at both of them. "Then we face it together." Outside the chamber, shadows stirred in the alien landscape, hinting at the dangers approaching. Inside, a human had touched the impossible, standing tall in the presence of alien power and proving that courage, heart, and wisdom could shine even in the most unexpected places. The story of the Key of Worlds and humanity's remarkable potential was only beginning. The Key of Worlds pulsed gently in the chamber, casting golden patterns across the crystalline walls. Ethan stood before it, feeling a strange connection that he could not fully explain. The artifact's energy seemed to respond to his thoughts, his intent, and even the rhythm of his breathing. The queen and the princess observed him in silence, their eyes wide with awe and caution. "This artifact, it is alive," the queen said softly, her voice barely audible. "It senses, chooses, and perhaps teaches. No alien has ever come this close without fear. And yet, here you are, human." Ethan studied the orb carefully. "It is more than a tool," he said quietly. "It responds to choices, not strength. It knows what is right." The princess stepped closer, curiosity bright in her eyes. "It reacts to you, but not me, not even my mother. Why? What does it see in you?" Ethan shook his head. "I don't know. Perhaps it sees what I cannot see in myself. But I feel it wants to guide, to help us protect life, not to harm." The queen's face softened slightly, though her pride remained. "If it chooses you, then humanity may have a role in the fate of worlds, a role I never imagined. I spent centuries guarding it, believing only the strongest of my kind could wield its power. And yet, perhaps I underestimated humans." Ethan felt a weight settle on his shoulders. He did not seek power, but he understood the responsibility that now lay before him. The artifact was not just an object of energy, it was a force that could shape the course of entire planets, perhaps even galaxies. A soft glow emanated from the orb, forming shapes and patterns that floated in the air. Stars, planets, and intricate lines connected across the chamber. Ethan realized it was a map, an ancient chart of the galaxy, showing places of great importance, both safe and dangerous. "This is incredible," he whispered. "It is showing us everything. Worlds, energy sources, and perhaps even beings in need." The queen stepped closer, her voice firm. "You must understand, human. This artifact does not give power lightly. It tests wisdom, courage, and compassion. If you fail, the consequences could be catastrophic." Ethan nodded solemnly. "I understand. I will not misuse it. I only wish to protect and learn." The orb pulsed once, sending waves of light through the chamber. Symbols floated around them, shifting into patterns that Ethan recognized. They were not alien or human, they were universal. They represented life, energy, and the balance that kept worlds safe. The princess gasped softly. "It is beautiful and powerful, but I can see why my mother feared it. One mistake, and the galaxy could be in danger." Ethan turned to her. "Then we must work together, humans and aliens, strength and wisdom combined." The queen's eyes narrowed, her expression unreadable. She had always believed humans were small, fragile, and limited. Yet here stood a human who could understand, respect, and even guide the Key of Worlds. Her pride battled with the truth she could no longer deny. "You speak of alliance?" she said slowly. "But can you trust us? Aliens have centuries of history, conflicts, rivalries, wars. You humans are young, but perhaps You have something we lack. Ethan looked her in the eye. Trust is earned, but it begins with action. I have healed your daughter, and I stand here honestly. That is my start. We face danger together, or we fail separately. The Queen studied him carefully. Her mind raced through centuries of tradition, duty, and caution, and yet she could not ignore what she saw: courage, honesty, and wisdom beyond his years. She finally nodded, a small gesture, but one heavy with meaning. Very well, she said. You will not be alone. You will have my daughter, my guidance, and the assistance of those I choose, but understand, the galaxy does not wait for preparation. Danger approaches swiftly. Ethan nodded. Then we act together. No hesitation. The orb pulsed again, brighter this time, projecting a holographic display that filled the chamber. Ethan could see regions of space where energy was unstable, planets under threat, and even ancient sites of forgotten power. The Key of Worlds was not just a map, it was a warning, and it had chosen him to respond. The princess stepped closer to her mother. Mother, perhaps this human can help us unite what we have divided. Perhaps it is time we put aside old rivalries. The Queen's expression softened, though her eyes still held caution. Perhaps, but trust must be measured, not given lightly. Ethan turned back to the orb. He realized that understanding it would take time. The artifact's intelligence was vast, far beyond human comprehension. Yet, it responded to qualities humans had in abundance: courage, empathy, and adaptability. Humans have a gift, he said quietly. We see solutions others cannot. We adapt, we care, and we protect. That is why it responds to me. The Queen remained silent, but the faintest trace of a smile appeared. She had underestimated humans, and she would not make that mistake again. Suddenly, the orb pulsed violently, projecting a holographic image of a distant system. Red markers flashed across planets and moons, signaling danger. Ethan's heart quickened. He understood immediately. Rival alien factions had detected the key's activation. They would not wait for diplomacy. They would attempt to seize it by force. We do not have much time, Ethan said firmly. We must prepare, warn allies, and protect the key. The galaxy will not wait for us to understand it fully. The Queen nodded, her expression serious. Then we act, humans and aliens, together. You have proven your worth, human. But now, we test your leadership. The princess looked up at Ethan, her eyes shining with trust. I believe in you, she whispered. We will face whatever comes, together. Ethan smiled faintly, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He had not sought this role, but he understood it fully. The Key of Worlds had chosen him because of what humans could offer, not because of what they could destroy. It was a test of character, courage, and unity. Outside the palace, the alien sky shimmered with an eerie glow. The distant sounds of rival fleets could already be heard, subtle but unmistakable. Time was short, and the key demanded action. Inside, humans and aliens stood together, forming a fragile but growing alliance. Ethan felt a surge of determination. He would not fail. Humanity's courage, ingenuity, and compassion were more than myths. They were proof of what could change the galaxy. The Key of Worlds pulsed once more, casting golden light over the room. It was a silent promise. Those who chose to act with wisdom and courage could protect entire worlds. Those who acted recklessly would fall. Ethan clenched his fists, his mind focused. He would learn, adapt, and lead. Together with the Queen and her daughter, humans and aliens would face the coming threat, and together they would prove that courage, intelligence, and compassion could shine brighter than any weapon. The story of trust, alliance, and the extraordinary potential of humanity continued. each moment building toward a future that neither species could yet imagine, but one that could be shaped by the actions of a single human, brave enough to stand tall in the face of the impossible. The alien sky was alive with streaks of violet lightning and glowing clouds as Ethan, the Queen, and the Princess prepared for what was coming. The distant hum of approaching ships echoed faintly across the crystalline spires of the palace. Rival, alien factions had sensed the activation of the Key of Worlds. They did not understand it, but they craved its power. Ethan tightened the straps of his gear, checking his medical kit and energy devices. "We have to act carefully," he said, his voice calm but firm. "We need strategy, not just force. That is how humans survive in dangerous situations." The Queen's eyes narrowed, her expression a mixture of pride and caution. "You have proven courage and wisdom in healing my daughter. But can you now lead in battle? Can you think faster than those who seek the key for power alone?" Ethan nodded. "I will do my best. That is all any human can promise." The princess approached him, placing her small hand on his arm. "We believe in you," she said softly. "You have already shown that courage is stronger than fear." Outside the palace, the first ships of the rival factions appeared, their shapes angular and dark against the glowing sky. The Queens. Guards readied energy shields and weapons, their movements precise and disciplined. Ethan observed calmly, noting the strengths and weaknesses of both the palace defenses and the approaching fleet. "Humans are resourceful," he said quietly to the princess. "We use what we have, adapt quickly, and think creatively. That is how we survive. That is how we will protect the key." The first attack came swiftly. Energy blasts lit up the sky, striking the palace walls. The crystal shields flared, absorbing some of the impact, but the attackers were relentless. The Queen's forces responded with precision, yet it was clear that sheer numbers could overwhelm even their best defenses. Ethan stepped forward. "We need a plan that uses the environment. The palace crystals can amplify energy. If we can focus them correctly, we can create a shield strong enough to stop them." The Queen regarded him silently for a moment. Then, recognizing the logic and creativity in his words, she nodded. "Very well, human. Lead." Ethan moved quickly, directing the palace engineers and guards. He explained how to angle the crystals, to reflect and amplify energy, forming a protective dome over the central chamber where the Key of Worlds floated. The aliens were surprised at the speed and clarity of his instructions, but they followed his guidance. The first wave of attacks hit the shield. Energy flares lit the sky as the reflected blasts created bursts of light and sound that disoriented the enemy. Ships crashed or veered off course, unable to penetrate the clever defensive formation. Ethan observed each reaction, adjusting his strategy as the battle progressed. The Queen's eyes widened in admiration. "I did not expect such ingenuity from a human. You think beyond the immediate danger. You anticipate and adapt." Ethan glanced at the princess, who nodded in encouragement. "Humans have faced impossible odds before," he said quietly. "We survive by thinking, by helping each other, and by staying calm when others panic." The attackers regrouped, attempting a second wave, more aggressive and unpredictable. Ethan anticipated their move, directing the Queen's forces to create a shifting barrier of energy using the palace crystals. The light patterns confused the enemy ships, making it nearly impossible for them to aim. Several ships were forced to retreat, and the remaining attackers hesitated. The Queen stepped closer to Ethan, her tone both serious and impressed. "You have saved us from the first wave, but the key, it may still be at risk. Can humans endure what comes next?" Ethan took a deep breath. "We can endure because we are not alone. Humans work together, trust each other, and never give up. That is how we face danger. That is how we win when the odds are against us." The princess smiled, her voice steady. "We will follow you. Together." The battle continued, and Ethan coordinated the defense with calm authority. His instructions were clear, precise, and adaptable. The key of worlds pulsed in resonance with him, its light brightening as if approving his actions. He realized that the artifact was not only testing him, but also aiding them, responding to his calm and clever strategy. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. Energy beams and explosions lit the sky, but the palace remained standing. The rival factions, unable to breach the defenses and frustrated by the ingenuity of the humans and aliens working together, began to retreat. Ethan lowered his arm, breathing steadily. The immediate danger had passed. The queen approached, her armor dimming slightly as the battle subsided. She studied him carefully, her voice firm but with an unusual softness. "You have done more than survive, human," she said. "You have led, adapted, and protected. The key of worlds, it has chosen wisely in recognizing your worth. I underestimated humans. I will not make that mistake again." Ethan nodded respectfully. "Thank you. But this is only the beginning. There may be more challenges ahead. We must remain prepared." The princess stepped forward, her eyes shining. "You have shown that humans are more than others think. Courage, wisdom, compassion. You carry all of these, and you teach us that. Working together makes us stronger." Ethan smiled faintly. "We all have strengths. Humans, aliens. Together, we can overcome far more than any of us could alone." The queen's gaze softened, a mixture of respect and contemplation. She had spent centuries ruling, guarding, and preparing for threats, yet she had never seen such courage and cleverness in a being she had considered weak. Humanity had proven itself in action, not in words or weapons. The key of worlds pulsed once more, casting golden light across the chamber. Ethan sensed its intelligence and judgment. It had tested him, and he had passed, not through force, but through strategy, courage, and calm decision-making. Outside, the alien skies began to clear, the retreating enemy leaving trails of fading light. The palace remained intact, its defenders proud, and a new sense of hope filled the air. Humans and aliens had faced a common threat and had succeeded. Ethan looked at the queen. "The key has shown its power, but it also shows what is needed to protect it. Strategy, courage, and teamwork are as important as strength. Humans have these qualities, and I believe we can guide and protect with them." The queen nodded slowly, a rare smile touching her lips. "You speak wisely. Humans, perhaps there is more to your kind than I ever believed. Today you have proven it, not just to me, but to all who witness this." The princess took Ethan's hand, her trust and admiration clear. "Together, we are stronger. Humans and aliens, united." Ethan's heart lifted. This was why he had come to the stars, not for glory, not for conquest, but to show that courage, intelligence, and compassion could change the course of events. Humans had been underestimated, yet here they were, proving their worth not with weapons alone, but with skill, wisdom, and heart. The key of worlds pulsed brighter, as if celebrating their victory, and Ethan realized that the artifact had chosen wisely. It had recognized qualities that transcended species, qualities that could shape the galaxy in ways no single race could achieve alone. For now, the immediate threat had passed. But the universe was vast, full of unknown dangers and opportunities. Ethan, the queen, and the princess would face them together, united by courage, trust, and the extraordinary potential of humanity. The story of human ingenuity, bravery, and Alliance with the alien world continued, each moment a testament to the strength of character and the power of working together. The skies over the alien palace were calm now, but the memory of battle lingered in the air. Ethan stood beside the princess and the queen, watching the golden glow of the Key of Worlds. The artifact pulsed softly, as if sensing that a new stage of its purpose was about to unfold. "You have proven yourself," the queen said, her voice steady but filled with awe. "Not only courage and wisdom, but patience, compassion, and leadership. The key, it has recognized your heart." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. "I do not seek glory," he said quietly. "I only wish to help, to understand, and to protect. That is what humanity can offer." The princess smiled, her eyes bright. "And humanity has proven it. You have shown us that courage is not measured by strength, but by the choices we make, the risks we take, and the care we give." The key pulsed more strongly, the golden patterns floating around the chamber like constellations come alive. Ethan stepped closer, sensing a call within the artifact. Not a voice, but a feeling, an invitation to understand its purpose fully. "It is responding to you," the queen said. "No one else has awakened it like this. Perhaps it is ready to show its secret." Ethan extended his hands toward the artifact, his mind calm and focused. As he touched it lightly, a wave of energy passed through him. Images, sounds, and sensations filled his mind, yet they were not overwhelming. Instead, they were clear, precise, and full of information. The key showed him distant worlds, civilizations on the brink of conflict, planets threatened by natural disasters, and systems in need of protection. It revealed the histories of countless species, the lessons learned and forgotten, and the patterns that kept life in balance. "This is incredible," Ethan whispered. "It is. A guide, a protector. It shows what must be done to maintain balance, to prevent suffering, to save worlds." The queen studied him, her expression a mixture of amazement and pride. "It is more than a weapon. It is wisdom. It chooses those who can understand responsibility, those who will act not for themselves but for life itself." The princess stepped closer, awe in her voice. "You are not just a human, Ethan. You are chosen. And yet, you are humble. That is why it responds to you." Ethan nodded. "We must use this knowledge wisely. Power without wisdom is dangerous, but if we act carefully, humans and aliens together can protect countless lives." The key pulsed once, brighter than ever, and the chamber was filled with a warm, golden light. Ethan felt a connection with it deeper than anything he had experienced. The artifact seemed to trust him, to see his intentions clearly. Outside, the alien skies shimmered, the light of 3 suns reflecting off the crystal spires. The palace was safe, the rival factions had been repelled, and the future seemed uncertain, yet full of promise. "We must act quickly," Ethan said. "The galaxy is vast, and danger will come again. But now we have knowledge, guidance, and the ability to protect." The queen's voice was calm but resolute. "Humans, you are indeed remarkable. I have spent centuries observing others, believing that strength alone mattered. But you have shown that courage, compassion, and wisdom are equally powerful. Today, humanity has earned a place among the stars in ways I never imagined." The princess smiled at Ethan, her hand brushing his arm. "We have learned from you, and we will follow your lead. Together we can face whatever comes." Ethan looked at them, feeling both pride and humility. "We will need to teach, to guide, and to act with patience. The key has chosen us because it recognizes potential, not just in humans, but in all who seek to protect life. Together, we can make a difference." The key pulsed again, and a soft hum filled the chamber. Images of worlds, civilizations, and energy flows moved through the air, showing the patterns of life across the galaxy. Ethan realized that this was not just a gift, but a responsibility. A responsibility to protect, to guide, and to act with courage and wisdom. The Queen's expression softened completely, a rare smile on her face. I underestimated humans. I did not see the strength within you. But now I do, and I will not make that mistake again. You have proven that life, courage, and intelligence can shine brighter than weapons or armor. Ethan nodded. It is not just humans. It is teamwork. Humans, aliens, all species that seek to protect and care. That is why the key responds to us. It recognizes intent and character. The princess stepped closer to the key, watching its glow. It is beautiful, but it also reminds us of responsibility. We must act wisely, or the balance could be lost. Ethan placed a hand gently on the artifact. We will act wisely. We will protect, learn, and guide. That is what it asks of us. The key pulsed one final time, bright and steady, as if confirming his words. The chamber was filled with warmth, light, and a sense of unity. Humans and aliens working together had faced impossible odds, repelled enemies, and now held the knowledge to protect countless worlds. Outside, the alien skies began to clear. The distant ships of the rival factions were gone, retreating into space. The crystal spires of the palace reflected the golden light of the key, shimmering like a beacon of hope. The Queen looked at Ethan, her expression filled with respect and trust. You have earned our confidence, human. And perhaps the galaxy has earned a chance to see what humans can truly achieve. The princess smiled, her eyes shining. Together, we are stronger. We have learned that courage, wisdom, and compassion matter more than any weapon. And now, we can protect life. Together. Ethan felt a surge of determination. Humanity had been underestimated for centuries, yet here they were, standing tall, showing courage, intelligence, and compassion to the galaxy. The Key of Worlds had recognized what humans could offer, not just in strength, but in heart and mind. He looked at the Queen and the princess, nodding firmly. We have a duty, a chance to protect, to guide, and to make the universe safer. Humans and aliens together can achieve what none could alone. The key pulsed once more, its light steady and warm. It was a silent acknowledgement, a promise that those who acted with wisdom and courage could shape the galaxy for the better. Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the weight and promise of responsibility. He knew challenges would come, dangers would rise, but humanity had proven itself not by force, but by courage, compassion, and wisdom. The Queen, the princess, and Ethan stood together, united by purpose, ready to face the galaxy as partners. And as the golden light of the Key of Worlds bathed the chamber, a new era began. An era where humans and aliens, courage and wisdom, heart and intelligence worked together to protect life and ensure that hope would shine across the stars. The story of humanity's courage and potential had reached a turning point. The universe had witnessed the power of unity, the strength of compassion, and the extraordinary capabilities of humans. And this was only the beginning.